We're going to discuss today one of the most pivotal roles that we play in life. We know that a child has in his life teachers, friends, and parents. And our role as parents is something which we enter without any introduction. Our sole introduction is what we've seen when we grew up and what we've seen by other parents with their children. So what we're going to discuss today is something which we would expect is natural to us. And yet, we all know that this is an area we try to perfect, we work on, and Be'ezrat Hashem, together we will work and explore and try to find new ways to develop our parenting to become better parents. Parenting really is individualistic. Different people, different children, different scenarios, different societies, different generations. Things change over time. And so we as parents also have to be dynamic. The subject really requires of us as parents to recognize what skills to apply at which times. There's no one formula. There are many tools, and it's our responsibility to think about what to apply when, and at the same time to be ourselves, so that our children are growing up in our home with us being our natural selves. And that's why part of our responsibility as parents is to become better people. Our sages tell us there are three partners in the creation of man: God, the Father, and the Mother. And we as parents are really in a role that is a partnership with the Creator. It is a partnership with Hashem. And so this is maybe the most important role we have in life. This might be the greatest investment you make in life. This might be the greatest legacy you leave in life. And this will probably be the investment which will give you the most dividends in life. So let's begin. Often in life, we have dreams, and we don't define goals. And if we define goals, then we can more easily define the path to attain those goals. So if we think about parenting, we have to think about what are our goals as parents. I think one of the basic goals we have is to provide a child with a home that is warm, that is stable, that is a source of strength, that is also demanding, a home that will help the child realize his strengths and grow to a mature, successful adult. But you notice we discussed the home, because a child grows up in a home, and at the root of the home is the parents. And so the most basic investment we make in our children, the most basic investment we make in our children is the peace at home, the peace between us as parents. The warm atmosphere stems from us as parents being caring for one another, being parents that are role models in what it means to care, to show concern, to love, to be fair, to be honest. In essence, what the child is getting is the home that we're giving him, and that is the greatest gift. So the first investment we could make, if we want our children to have a great home, is an investment in our relationship with our spouse. One of the greatest issues we face in our generation is an issue of time. Theoretically, we should have more time, but realistically, we have less time. And this is a subject we will explore throughout our sessions, but at first glance, the time we give our spouse, the time we give and invest in building our relationships with our spouse, well, that is time very, very well invested. It's not only an investment for ourselves and for our marriage, it is also an investment in the kids, in the home that the kids will grow up in. Let's talk about the children for a minute. I remember one of the first classes I gave was to a group of children. It was a Shabbos afternoon group, and every Shabbos I would teach the children stories from the Parsha, stories from the Navi, from the prophets. And at the end of one class, a child came over to me and said, I'm going to miss next week. You see, I'm divorced. So I look at the child. The child is 9 years old. And I stood there bewildered. What does that mean? So I smiled and I asked him, what does that mean? So he hesitated for a minute, and then he said, no, I meant my parents are divorced. And it struck me, it's a conversation I'll never forget. He said, I'm divorced, because that's how he felt. So when we speak about what we want to give our children, the first thing we want to give our children is a stable home, where they know where they're coming from, and from that strength, they could also know where they're going to. Our role as parents. So children have friends, they have teachers, and they have parents. And sometimes it's tempting to confuse the roles. If I'm the parent, am I also the teacher? Yes, on some level. If I'm the parent, am I also the friend? Yes, on some level. But I am something much bigger. My responsibility is to be something much bigger, something that is encompassing. And at times, it is not encompassing. At times, my role is not to be their friend, because there has to be that relationship of a parent-child, which we will explore as we go on. And part of that relationship is that I'm not his friend. Oh, we have a great relationship, which in certain ways is similar to a friendship. And in certain ways, it is encompassing of a friendship relationship. But I'm not his friend. I'm his parent, which is much, much more. And let's take an example. Where friends would lose patience with a person, our job as parents is to give love. Where friends would stay silent when someone might be making a mistake, our responsibility as parents is to give direction. And when parents will give up on when friends will give up on a person, it is our job as parents to continue having faith in the person, to give the person hope. So our role as parents exceeds the role of a friend in many ways. Yes, we as parents also teach, but is that our prime role? Our prime role is to be parents. Parents that give love, nurture, warmth, direction, hope. We have a lot of tasks to do as parents, and many of them come naturally and easily. And some of them require patience. Some of them require work on ourselves. We have two terms in Hebrew when we speak about educating children. We have a term chinuch. We have a term limud. Limud is to teach. And in one place the Torah says, "V'limadtem otam et benechem," teach your children. So yeah, we have a mitzvah to teach our children Torah. We have a mitzvah to teach our children. But the term we more often use as our role as parents is chinuch. The verse says, "Chanoch lana'ar al pi darko." Now, if we were to translate that loosely, we would say, educate the child according to his path. But that's a very loose translation. The word chinuch really is more encompassing than to just translate as, you can't just translate it as teach the child. So what does the word chinuch mean? The word chinuch is like the holiday of Chanukah. The word chinuch is akin to the word inaugurate. The word chinuch indicates starting a path, starting a journey. Our role as parents is not to finish the journey. Our role is to start the journey. Our role is to show the child his strengths. Now let's ask ourselves, how many times a day do we as parents criticize a child? How many times a day do we tell them we wanted something different of them? And how many times a day do we as parents compliment them, Do we as parents show them their strengths? Do we as parents show our appreciation for the children? Now, it's natural. You live in a home and the child isn't careful and spills. The child pulls his sister's hair. Yes, we live in a world where we have a responsibility as parents to guide the child and sometimes tell him he can't do something or he shouldn't be doing something. But again, we said we will try to define our goals, and based on the definition of our goals, we will define our path. One of the great strengths we as parents can have is when we ask ourselves at the beginning of the week, at the beginning of the day, or within our regular interchanges with our children, what are our goals? Not every conversation is going to be the conversation that will show him his strengths. That's true. But when we look at the big picture and we ask ourselves, what am I doing more? Am I criticizing more? Am I giving him strength? Am I showing him the capacity he has to be great? And sometimes it's true. We can have a day or two where we're contending with an issue in the house. We can even have a longer period in which we're contending with an issue in the house, an issue with a specific child. But again, what is our goal? So one of our major goals is Chinuch. Chinuch is inaugurating, starting a child off on a path of his strengths. Chanoch lana'ar al pi darko. So we're supposed to do chinuch, we're supposed to show the child his strengths, help him discover his strengths according to his path. That means there's no single formula for chinuch. That means there's no way that any book, or any shiur for that matter, can really encompass the exact needs of your child, of my child, of any child. Because chinuch is very personal. And really, the Torah expects, and we should expect of ourselves, to formulate our approach based on the child's needs. It's not right to say every child should go to the same school. I once attended a very good school where students would come to check out the school, and the school would ask me to meet with the students and share with them a little bit about the school. And there was a standard line I'd always say, which I really believe. This school is a good school, but that doesn't mean it's good for you. And so every formula we're going to discuss in Chinuch involves an understanding by the parent, does this formula apply to my child? Does this approach work well with my child? Is now the correct time to apply this approach to my child? Some of the things we will be discussing are correct when applied to a 3-year-old, some to a 5-year-old, some to a 10-year-old, some of the approaches to a 15-year-old. Some are correct when a child is more sensitive, some are correct when a child is less sensitive, some are more correct and applicable to a boy, and some are more correct and applicable to a girl. And that's our job as parents, to look at the vast array of approaches which we have hopefully gained, and think about when we want to apply each. When is it correct to apply each? So let's summarize. What did we discuss so far today? We discussed that there are different people who play different roles in a child's life. He has his teachers, his friends, and then he has his parents. And our job sometimes overlaps with these other people, but it is not. Our job is not to be only a teacher or only a friend. Our job is to be a parent, which involves much more. We discussed the 3 partners that there are in the formation of man: Hashem, the father, the mother, and in this partnership we have a huge responsibility. We discussed that this is quite possibly the greatest investment we make, and the investment which we will get the most dividends from. We discussed that we have to define our goals as parents, and once we've defined our goals, then we can more easily find the direction to take. We discussed the idea of chinuch versus limud, where limud is learning and chinuch is far more encompassing. It's more like inaugurating a child on different paths. And our responsibility to be his mechanchim, which as parents means that we help him find his strengths. We discussed our responsibility to sometimes ask ourselves, am I really investing time in finding his strengths, helping him see his strengths? We discussed Chanoch lanar al pi darko, which means that Chinuch is very personal oriented. It is oriented to the individual. There's no one formula. And that leaves us as parents with the responsibility of deciding which path is right for our children at which times. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.